Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women's Transformation Show. I'm your host, Kim Wilborn of Women'sTransformation.com, coming to you live from the San Francisco Bay Area. My mission is to help you connect to your true self so that you can experience the magic of manifesting your unique higher purpose, discovering your personal superpowers, and expressing them more and more every day. Together, we create a space where you can fully express who you are and what you love. I invite you to visit me on youtube.com/Kim Wilborn, where you'll find videos to help you raise your vibration, and I hope you'll download your free copy of my ebook, Raise Your Vibration in 2 minutes or Less, at www.womens-transformation.com. Right now you can get a sneak peek at my new group coaching program. It's called Reinvent Yourself this summer, and you can find out more about it when you go to www.womens-transformation.com and click on coaching. All righty, let's get started. It's May 31st, 2012, and today we'll be talking with Marney Makridakis, founder of the groundbreaking creative community Artella, creator of the Art Abundance Approach to Self-Discovery Through Art, and author of the new book, Creating Time, Using Creativity to Reinvent the Clock and Reclaim Your Life. I love Marney's website, Artella, so much that I've become an affiliate, and you can get a free gift from Marney today. Just click on the link I've provided on the Blog Talk Radio page, and you can download a free copy of Artella's ebook, Piece by Piece, Collage Your Way to Inner Peace and Harmony. This is a workbook that guides you through several collage projects, each one designed to bring you closer to your true self and your powerful ability for manifesting your dreams and desires. Welcome to the show, Marney.
Oh, Kim, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. And I love what you said about just creating this space together for transformation. I'm very happy to enter into that space with you today.
Oh, yay. Well, I want to recommend your new book to all my listeners. It's not only is it visually beautiful, but it's just packed full of insight and inspiration and projects. And the projects are something special that you've created. They're called art assignments. Can you tell us about art assignments and how they came into being?
I would love to. Art assignments, which, of course, is a combination of the word assignment and art, because I've always thought the word assignment feels a little heavy. And art assignments are at the core of my approach that I call Art Abundance, which is an approach to self-awareness and self-discovery through creativity. And for about the past 4 years, I've been training people to use Art Abundance and the art assignments in professional venues such as coaching and speaking and teaching workshops. And what I found is that creativity, working with our hands to create something visual, something tangible, it takes us to a different place when we are engaging with a challenge or an issue, something that we're wanting to transform in our life. Taking it to the art level, taking it to creativity, gets us there faster. And this is true not just for people who might think of themselves as creative or as artists, but it's true for anyone. And I found this in my own life, and about really over the past 10 years since I've been playing around in Artella Land, my online community, I found the power that when we get out of our heads and go to art, then all of a sudden our thinking, our insights, our awarenesses go to a whole different level, and that's what art assignments are all about. It stops us from just staying at the same level, stops us from just talking about a problem like time or any other challenge we have, and helps us uncover what our imagination wants to show us. Einstein said, logical thinking will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you anywhere. And to me, that's what art assignments are about. It's a way to let imagination take us anywhere.
Wow. Well, on your website, you've got so many different products that help people use creativity for all different areas of their life. How did you decide on time for the subject of your book?
Well, actually, it was really interesting when New World Library, the wonderful publisher, had approached me about doing a project together. I shared several ideas that were based on things that I had done before, And the time idea was based on an e-course that I first wrote about 4 years ago. And I mentioned it to the publisher, to New World Library, almost in passing, just saying, oh, well, and I also have this course that's really all about creating time through creativity. And they just loved it. They said, that's it. And so it actually, it's probably of all of the e-programs that I've ever created, it's probably my favorite. But to be honest, I hadn't really ever thought of it in the form of a traditional book. And so it really took the publisher coming in and seeing the potential in that, and then being the right publisher for me to partner with, because together we really worked to make it a guide that would be supportive not just for artists, not just for creatives, but for anybody, really seeking out for that general audience as well. So I think I was just matched with the right publisher to help me hone in on that topic. And so then it was a matter of taking what I had already created in the e-program several years earlier and then expanding that, of course, for the full-length book.
Wow. Well, I'm wondering, as I was reading the book, was there anything you discovered while writing it that actually even surprised you?
Oh, gosh, yes. And even now, I have to say, just talking about it, because I'm in the book tour now, and so I'm in this mode where I'm talking about time all the time. And I feel very grateful for that, because it really keeps the topic in the forefront of my mind and definitely ensures that I'm walking my talk. Time is such a multi-layered concept, and it's one that is very easy to limit and for us to look at time as a challenge that is only exists on the chronological, sequential, linear level, when in fact time is so deeply nuanced, and time is so much more than just hours on a clock or days in the week or even years on the calendar. Time is a deeply emotional, psychological entity that exists, inclusive of our psychology and our feelings and our beliefs about it. And so what I realized in this approach, what I was really setting out to do was to offer an alternative to time management, because traditional time management is wonderfully effective, but it really only addresses the chronological, linear layer of time. And I really wanted to design an approach that allowed us to see the full layers of awareness of time that are available to us. Mm-hmm. And so there are so many things. I mean, to be honest, I created the book, first starting with the e-course. I wrote the course because I needed it myself. It was really what I needed, because I couldn't find a creative and really spiritual, yet very practical, hands-on resource that I could use to help me with my biggest challenge, which was time. So I really created it because I needed it. And then last year, when I was in full throes of the manuscript, again and again, I realized how much it all comes back to time, both for me and for everyone. Time is so personal, and it affects so many layers of our lives. And our beliefs about time and our relationship with time, I think, is a direct reflection of our beliefs about our life. And so it's just a wonderful, deeply nuanced topic that I still am finding myself learning from and gaining new realizations and revelations. I feel really fortunate that I'm talking about time on this tour, and I keep thinking, thank goodness I didn't write about, toilets or something. I'm so glad that I wrote about time, because it keeps it all very, very present. And of course, conversations and dialogue, that's where we transform. That's how we change. That's how things help get sunken in. So conversations like this open the door to continued transformation all the time.
I found the book to just be incredibly empowering around time. So instead of feeling like it was in control of me, it kind of gave me a doorway to enter into having a different relationship with it, a more empowered, more kind of loving relationship with it.
Yeah, I think that's what it really comes down to is what is our relationship with time, and how can we see that time is not something that is outside of ourselves, that we have to, bump up against, or time keeps us from being the people that we're meant to be. What if time was our partner, our best resource, our best friend? What does it mean to have a completely different, new relationship with time? how could that change our lives if we really believed that time was completely behind us, completely on our side, and all we had to do was shift our perception of it to see how many choices we have. And so I love that you say that your experience of it was empowering. I think that time tools, time management, that approach is very empowering as well, in that it helps us realize we have choices about how we use time, how we spend time. And the approach of creating time, this book, is to also go deeper to say, not only do we have choices about how we use time and how we spend time, but we also have choices about what we receive from time. We have choices about our feelings about time and our experiences with time. We have choices about that too. And so I love that you felt that you felt that time could be a supportive entity for you, because it really, really can, and I think it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it just changes everything, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, think about, we all have our time story. It's sort of our default that we go to, the thing that we always are saying about time. And this is different for everybody. It could be, oh, there's never enough time, or I'm always late, or I'm a bad time manager, or it's too late for me, or I wasted so much time. We all say things about time. And in fact, if you're not really sure what your go-to statement is for anyone listening, if you ask someone you work with or that you live with, ask them. Say, what do you hear me say about time? And they'll probably tell you. But we have that default place that we just kind of keep going back to as our set point about time. And I think that it's helpful to imagine, wow, what if that set point didn't exist? What if that limiting belief wasn't there? We spend a lot of time worrying about time. Our time anxiety is actually quite time-consuming. And when you look at, wow, what if suddenly you did not worry about time, whether there's not enough of it or too much of it or time that's lost or wasted? If you suddenly didn't have that kind of stress and anxiety in your life, that's a lot of time you've just opened up that you can then use for anything that you want. It's pretty amazing that when we look at, we look at the things that take time, so very often the things themselves don't take that much time. It's the moments that we spend worrying about it that really do.
Wow. Well, I'm going to jump in and ask a larger question that's off the topic of the book, but it's something that I want to ask you. One thing that strikes me about you is that you seem to have somewhere along the line given yourself permission, and probably on an ongoing basis, to create, to actually follow through and create abundantly. And I think so many of us struggle with having so many ideas and inspirations, but then not actually bringing them into the world. And I know this is something you deal with you address with your products, but I'd just like to hear your take on it and what's made the difference to you so that you can create all these things just so abundantly.
Well, I think to me it has to do with really keying in on the supportive entities. And for me, I pinpoint the thing that supports me the most in forward motion, movement, productivity, really is passion and joy. And I think for me that plugging into our passion, it's like plugging into this incredible energy source that is completely renewable. And when we go to where the fun is, go to where the joy is, instead of going with, I have to do this first. I can't do B because I haven't done A. Well, what if you started at Z? What if you just let yourself go to where the momentum is, where the joy is, because that's what builds that momentum effect of where all of a sudden you're creating, and you're putting it out there, and you can't stop because you can't imagine yourself not doing that. Momentum is I think, the key to actually really moving forward and following those creative dreams. And then we look at other supportive resources, things that we may not have thought about, like time, like engaging in a dance with time where time is completely supporting every little piece that is part of this endeavor. And we start looking at building a team that might have some human members, some people in our support team that really support us. But it also is about tapping into the entities of that when we strengthen them and activate them, they take on a life of their own. The Art Abundance approach has 9 principles. They include things like balance, choice, vision, intuition. And these entities, I think of them all as friends. I mean, I really think of them as, I myself have 12 people on my Artella team behind the scenes, but I also think of the supportive elements in my life, like the 9 Art Abundance principles. I see them as being members of my team too, and I know that sounds kind of silly, but that's how easily that we can access intuition. Just like if you were to, ask somebody on your staff to go do something for you, or do this research task or carry out this project. We can also ask that of entities, concepts that we need to activate. And so I think that that's really core is, to me at least, is connecting to those pieces like passion, vision, intuition that really give me that power that I need to push forward.
Oh, I love that. And in the book,
I know it's a little out there.
Well, it's not out there for this show. It's perfect, and I totally love it. And I think it's something we can all use and really start taking advantage of those energies that are there, just waiting to support us, and we need to build a relationship with them. And in the book, you've got an art assignment for creating a time guide that's kind of has to do with what you were talking about, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think that when we personify concepts, that's when we can actually use them. So think of the difference between, oh gosh, okay, so I want to partner with time in a new way, and then actually creating a persona, a guide or a muse, if you will, that represents time. And that's the art assignment in the book, is to create a time guide, to make a piece of art, whether it's a drawing or a collage or a painting or a doodle or a digital piece of art. It doesn't matter. It's not about what the art looks like. It's about giving a face and a fashion sense and a set of accessories to this guide, this persona, so that then you actually have something. You have now time personified so that you can connect. And like building any relationship, you can look to time and say, okay, we're in a relationship here. Let's talk. And in the book, I suggest actually writing a letter to your time guide saying exactly what you need. Spill your guts. Say, what do you need from time? What are your questions? What do you just wish time would do? And then from a really centered, quiet, deep place inside, allow your time guide to write you back. Dear, sweet, darling Kim, I'm so glad you reached out to me. This is what I want you to know. And just let yourself write. And just by personifying an element like time, but it could be anything. It could be anything we want to activate in our lives. All of a sudden, we're giving it superpowers so that we can then access it, work with it. We learn so much about working with people. I have a little preschooler, so, we're real big on learning all those little interpersonal skills that that we're supposed to learn early on, although some of us never learn them. But things like sharing and playing and kindness and we learn a lot about interpersonal relationships, and let's channel some of that into our work with the concepts that we want to embody and activate in our lives.
Wow. This is really something that I'm going to let sink in, and I want everybody else to give themselves a chance to let it sink in too and really begin to take action on it. And you could start with that time guide in the book, get the book and start with that. But actually, in creating time, you've got 14 concepts for creating time through creativity. And I wondered, do you have one that's a favorite?
Oh, what a great idea. What a great question. Do I have one that's a favorite? Well, I don't really. I mean, I find myself, it's funny because I've been traveling and I'm teaching workshops on different of these exercises or these different chapters. As you said, each one of the 14 is a gateway of a new way to think about time. And I find that whatever one I'm teaching or talking about at the time becomes my favorite. I guess overall, though, I think for me, if I had to pick, the thing to me, I think maybe the most powerful is there's a chapter on gratitude. And what happens when gratitude comes in, swoops in, when we allow gratitude to swoop in? Because I think that gratitude expands our sense of the moment. It changes our relationship with time and with everything. I think gratitude is the quickest, if I may say so. It's a shortcut to meaning, and so the implications of having a greater sense of qualitative time as well as greater choice and control over quantitative time, I think gratitude gets us there quicker than anything else. So I don't know if I would call that my favorite, but it's definitely, I think that chapter and just that idea is, I think, a great area of awareness. And it's the one that I find is sort of my constant go-to when I'm finding myself, stressed about time or worried about time, because I still do. Remember, this was what I needed to read myself. So I'm still working it. I'm still learning it. That going to the gratitude and what am I grateful about this moment right here, right now, is to me the way to live the width and breadth of time and not just the length of time. So I think that that's a real quick go-to that I find personally really effective.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that chapter with the gratitude timeline, because it seemed like it was combining a way to stay present with the power of being in that space of gratitude. So it was awesome, I thought.
It was
I
really
also wanted to ask
interesting.
you about a new rituality. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, rituality. This is a chapter that's all about the power of ritual and how ritual affects our sense of time, our perception of time, our awareness of time. And I think that how we begin and end our days, how we punctuate our days, is really powerful. It lingers and is reflected in our experience of time. And so I find that creating rituals, and I think it's important to say that rituals don't need to be huge and epic and extravagant. They can be very simple and just little tiny movements, actions. They don't have to take a lot of quantitative time. But creating rituals that allow us to mark the beginning and ending of our days with meaning and setting forth our intention for how we want to experience time that day, really, really powerful. And it's another way to shift things so quickly. Just beginning a day with something like putting your hand on your heart to feel your heartbeat and connecting to your heartbeat as true time. I sometimes talk about how true time is not the clock on our wrist. Turn over your wrist, feel your pulse. That's how you take true time. And that's a simple ritual. It doesn't take a lot of chronological time. You could do it in 1 minute or 2 minutes, but it just aligns you with, okay, I want to feel the beating of my heart today as the force that is moving me. And I don't want to be run by the clock. I want to be run by inside, by my heart. That's an example of a really small, simple, easy ritual that supports the relationship that we want to have with time from the very beginning in the morning. I think that that's a really powerful way to shift what's going on in between the two rituals.
Well, and it also makes me think of the idea of Chronos and Kairos that you talk about in the book, and you've got a beautiful passage that your father wrote. But could you tell us, I know we don't have a lot of time, but can you give us an idea of that concept?
Absolutely, and we have all the time we need. Always.
What was I thinking?
I know. No, I say it to remind myself as well. Even when I'm doing, we talked briefly before this interview, and I told you sometimes I'm doing these interviews with, all of 5 minutes with little sound bites, and I have to remind myself we have all the time we need. We have all the time we need. Chronos and Kairos, so glad you asked. I think it's a great place to begin and to explore the depth of time. Chronos and Kairos are two Greek words, and they actually take their origination from the Greek god pantheon. But they're actually words that are active and alive in modern conversational Greek today, which I really like. And they refer to two aspects of time. Chronos, Kronos, refers to linear, measured, bounded chronological time. We get our word chronological from that word chronos, in fact. And that's the time that we normally think of when we think of time, of course. And then there is kairos, K-A-I-R-O-S. And kairos refers to non-linear, non-measured, spontaneous, in-the-moment, spiritual, divine time. It is also time, but it's not the time that we think of when we think of time that we're measuring. And just simply having an awareness of chronos and kairos, two kinds of time, learning from the Greek language that we can actually embrace both of these entities in our sense of time. And just being aware as we go through our day, okay, am I in chronos or am I in kairos right now? It's just a helpful way to start looking at the different aspects of time and then take it further and say, okay, what might happen if I pulled in the energy of one into this situation? I'm in chronos right now. What happens if I bring in a little bit of spontaneous creative kairos? Or I'm really enjoying my kairos time right now. What happens if I bring in a little bit of the structure and the order of chronos? Because it's not that one is, bad and the other is good. It's not that, chronos is boring and kairos is enlightened and spiritual, or that, chronos is dependable and kairos is chaotic. It's not that there's one. We can look at this without a judgment and instead just see these as both very supportive, partnering aspects of time. So I think it's a great place to really begin, to look at chronos and kairos in our lives and how both of them can be brought in to really support us.
Wow. Do you have, off the top of your head, can you think of an example of maybe being in that space of kairos time and then bringing in chronos?
Absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind, just as you asked me, is oftentimes creative people, when they're working toward a goal. I do a lot of work with creative entrepreneurs, and a lot of times people feel like, oh, I'm just sort of in kairos mode here, or maybe they may not identify it as such. But that's actually an empowering way to identify it. When we look at if somebody is listening and feels like, gosh, I'm just, I'm spinning my wheels, I have all these ideas, but I'm never really getting anywhere. It's empowering to realize you are somewhere. You're in kairos time, and that's actually the place where ideas are born. Now, what happens if we bring in some chronos? What happens if we bring in the supportive element and the supportive energy of how time, chronos time, can partner with the spontaneous, numinous kairos time to help us find a sequence, to help us move through, A, B, C, D, E, or Friday at 5 o'clock or Monday at 10:30. How can we use time, chronos time, to help make movement with those goals? And so much of my work in my mentoring programs and my work with creative entrepreneurs is about finding that bridge between chronos and kairos, which is actually very similar to the right and left brain bridge, actually. Again, one is not, quote, better than the other. They both blend together to be powerful. Is that a helpful example?
That's awesome, and I think it's something I can really relate to, needing to be able to blend them and feeling that you are being, quote-unquote, productive no matter where you're at on the spectrum at any given time. But just kind of empowering yourself to be able to use them and blend them in harmony.
Yeah, I think it's very helpful because we start, it's easy when we're feeling like we're not moving or things are stuck, and it's easy to get down on ourselves, and, that's the complete opposite of momentum. I talked about momentum, which is just about movement and feeling that fire behind you and under you, as well as the current. Of course, I love the metaphor of the current, flowing with the current, because, of course, the current is the present. And allowing ourselves to just be in the present. And, yes, the empowering feeling of realize, no, it's not that I'm wasting time. It's that I have been delightfully in kairos time. And what happens now when I bring some chronos into this? And kairos is also really effective with goals. Another thing that happens is that people often feel stuck in chronos time, interestingly. So they have all these ideas, but the reason they're not moving forward is because they feel like, oh, somebody told them, or they read somewhere, or they heard somewhere, well, I can't teach this class until I have a website, or, I can't do this until I do this. And so we have this sort of idea that, how you build a business or make a dream come true or follow a venture, there's this sequence that you're supposed to follow. And so they feel trapped in Chronos time because they're like, I just can't get to that first step. Well, there's often a reason for that, because often that first step is not a fun one, and that's where we lose momentum. So what if we just throw all the steps in the air and go into Kairos time? So I often do that with people when I'm working with them, and I'll say, okay, well, let's just put this goal in Kairos time. If you were in Kairos time and there was no such thing as a sequential order at all, what happens when you just let yourself skip around? What happens if you start at Z instead of A? And all of a sudden, this opens up some possibilities. This really, it opens up new insights that weren't there when we were stuck in Chronos. So really both elements, those are just small examples of how both energies, both elements can really come together to be a supportive structure overall.
Oh, but that's huge, being able to just follow the energy and the passion and not get stuck in one place. Yeah. That's huge. Oh, this has been awesome, Marnie. I wish we could talk all day. But I want to make sure I remember, you've got a sale at your website, and it ends June 5th. So could you let everybody know about it?
Oh, thank you so much for asking about that. Yes, I have a sale on artellaland.com, which is my creative community for all kinds of creative spirits, artists, writers, entrepreneurs, and it's ARTELLALAND. And right now we are in the middle of the 7-day spring into summer sale, and all e-products, and we've literally got hundreds of e-products, downloadable products, everything from downloadable art supply kits to e-courses and seminar recordings and all kinds of downloadable self-study workshops, hundreds of things to choose from, and everything's 50 to 75% off through Tuesday the 5th. So thanks for letting me give a shout-out to that.
Oh, yeah, well, it's a big deal. Marnie's e-courses and all the things that she has at her website are really neat. So it's a good time to take advantage of the lower price, so I recommend everybody jump on that. And thank you so much, Marnie, for being my guest and sharing creative time with my listeners. I wish you all the best with the book and everything that you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the work that you're putting out in the world, transforming women and everything that you do, and thanks for your support of Creating Time.
Thank you, Marnie, and thank you, everyone, for joining the show. Until next time, this is Kim Wilborn, wishing you all love and abundance.